Hello there. There is no intro music for people who are watching the live stream today. We're just going live. We're just doing it ad hoc. That's partly because I forgot that I had to do intro music for my Hodge on Nodge pods, which are far more high production value than the Tartan Daily pods, of which I've done 2 this morning. But as you can see, I have the 2 main men alongside sort of Paddy Davitt, Dave Freezer, everybody else that's knocking around the beat. But 2 of the men who are most acutely tuned into the Norwich City transfer zeitgeist in Connor Southwell, who's at my kind of left, and Michael Bailey, who's just down below me there. Thank you to everyone who is watching the pod live. If you are on the stream, then please let me know you're there. Say hello. Get your questions in for these guys, because it's just going to be a quick fire one, 25 minutes or so, where we're going to quickly run through all of the latest with the Norwich City transfer business. So, yes, let us know you're there. Say hello. Get your questions in. For anyone who listens to the podcast subsequently after this, then I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, feel free to fire questions to me in a DM and I'll ask these guys next time. Now, this is the first of a few of these that I think, time allowing, we're going to be doing, gents. Is that right?
Let's give it a go, won't we?
Yeah. I think it'll be good. And it'll keep everyone, obviously you can keep abreast on these guys' own channels. And normally I would do that, where can guys find your stuff? We'll do that at the end. But to be honest, everybody watching this knows you two anyway. I would say so.
Potentially.
Says afternoon chaps. That's very familiar, you know. But first off, I want to talk about the potential return of a guy. I mean, Norwich City's in Angus Gunn's blood, isn't it? Like, I mean, he was born with the DNA of the club imprinted within him, and it looks to all. Well, I'll start off by asking, what's the latest with that move, gents, rather than us assuming anything. Hi to everyone who's saying hello, and as I say, get some questions in. But maybe start off with yourself, Michael. What's the latest in the Angus Gunn transfer, as you understand it?
Well, I think we're just waiting for it to be confirmed, to be honest. I think we'll get bits and bobs needed to confirm it over the coming days. So I think it's just a matter of waiting for it. It's a nice move. I think it probably makes everyone feel a bit warm and fuzzy, which is good. And I think those of us who dealt with Angus when he was here last time know that he's a great guy. Like you say, Stu, you don't really need to tell him anything about the football club. I mean, most footballers, it's kind of here or there whether they really care about where they're playing for, because ultimately it's like their employer, and you always care for your employer a little bit, but it's you know, it's a slightly different.
At the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not the same as being a customer, I suppose. But yeah, it's a lovely move. I think the idea of it sits quite well with me. I've been looking at that gap between Tim Krul and the goalkeepers coming through in terms of their ages for a while, probably 3 or 4 windows, and that's needed a bit of addressing. And I think what's probably struck me, and I'm sure Connor will agree, is that it's a really difficult position to fill, your backup goalkeeper. I mean, most clubs do now seem to have sort of 3 really that they would want to call on, and you know, that second role where you've got to have the balance between putting someone under pressure, but being happy enough not playing and being able to bide your time and take what you're going to get.
A goalkeeper, isn't it? Like, if you're a backup goalkeeper, you could be sitting on the bench most of the season.
Exactly that. And I think that's ultimately why Owen Neeland isn't staying, because I don't think he wanted to do it. I think he wanted to get out and play, which, given his injury issues of the previous season, you can kind of understand. So, you know, it's clearly something where Norwich and Angus are happy to play a bit of the long game. Tim's career over the coming years will be quite interesting to me as well. So, you know, he's a guy who's back in the international level. Pretty unfortunate not to be playing, I think, at the Euros. And so, you know, when we try and see Norwich sustain themselves in the Premier League, that's going to be one of the narratives there too. So, but yeah, digressing slightly, but I think it'll be great to have Angus back in a yellow shirt or slightly grey.
Yeah, I think most people seem to be fairly happy with it. The one thing I would ask you, maybe, Connor, is does it surprise you that this is the area that has been looked at? Well, if you don't include the sort of last season's kind of signings of Nullis and Gibson, this is the area that's kind of been targeted first, or do you think it's just more of a situation where the opportunity emerged and Norwich City decided to proceed with it?
Yeah, exactly that. I don't think, clearly there are bigger priorities in the squad, in the first team, the second choice goalkeeper. But as Michael has said, it's been a position that I think they've needed to fill for a while. And then you're probably looking at goalkeepers at the moment who are around to fill that role. There's not too many, to be honest. So it's a really interesting one. Like you said, probably an opportunity that arrived with that Stoke loan getting cut short and Southampton probably moving him down the pecking order and him sort of being behind Fraser Forster and Alex McCarthy. So that probably presents an opportunity. They're probably looking to, as most clubs will be at the moment, to get a fee so they can do some business of their own, because money is pretty hard to come by at the moment. And obviously, for all the reasons that Michael has kind of outlined, there's a romantic element to it as well. So no doubt he will have pushed it from his side. And I think one thing that you will have got with this one is there will probably be more clubs interested than perhaps people will ever know about or will realise. And because of the Brexit situation, not particularly, but I mean, I think in terms of, I think there will be Premier League teams that will be looking for homegrown options because of the Brexit implications and different things like that. Obviously, the rules are a bit less strict in the Premier League than the Championship, but I think for all the reasons that Michael has said, all the reasons that everyone else has sort of said, and when this move has kind of progressed last week, I think it makes a lot of sense for all parties, to be honest. For Angus, as we said, long-term sort of view and with the view to becoming Norwich City's number one in the long term, I think will be quite attractive as well. The club that he knows after what's been probably a pretty tough couple of seasons, to be honest, after that 9-0 defeat and a loan move that was a bit stop-start because of injury and whatnot. I think is a good opportunity for him now, particularly with a young family, to settle down and to really embark on a new project. So for all the reasons you've kind of said, I think it ticks a lot of boxes, not just because his last name is Gunn, as most people will maybe jump to conclude.
I know, I think that's fair enough. But what I would say is I watched quite a bit of him last season and he wasn't brilliant. He's not coming off the back of a great campaign. So hopefully he can sort of pick that form back up again. He's going to be in familiar surroundings, and let's be honest, it's the place he's played his best football so far as a professional. So I think it could be a good move. And I mean, just short answer from both of you here, pretty much a formality, just a matter of time. Yep. Excellent. Right, so next one that we're going to move on to is a rumour that's been gaining a bit of momentum, and a player that I know very well from his time north of the border, and that's Kristoffer Ajer. Now, I'll give a wee bit of background just quickly to Kristoffer Ajer. When Kristoffer Ajer arrived at Celtic as a teenager, he arrived as a player that had played predominantly as an attacking midfielder, either on the left or in the kind of number 10 role. Think maybe sort of Marco Stiepermann-esque in that he's left-footed, quite tall, all that sort of stuff, and maybe the way he carries his body as well. Came to Celtic, became a centre-back, had a couple of years of development, and then when he eventually began to break into the team, I've done too many of these podcasts. When he began to break into the team, he did so, and he was immediately the kind of player that would be coming out from the back, a real modern defender in that sense. And even though he's got a very, very tall stature, I don't think that physicality is necessarily the key hallmark of his game. I think the key hallmark of his game is his ability to play out from the back and to knit things in the midfield, and on occasion go on a galloping run towards the opposition 18-yard box. So it's a very different type of defender from what I'm expecting. And I've surmised in a few different outlets that I think Norwich City are maybe going to play a back three on more than one occasion next season. This move sort of makes me think that I might be right in that assessment. Now, what do you guys think of what you've seen of Ajer so far? And I'm quite happy for either of you to chime in here.
Well, I mean, I watched. I want to say it was a game against Rangers, but there was one Celtic game where I watched, and I'll be honest, wasn't particularly impressed. But then I think I haven't watched a lot of Celtic, Stu, so you're maybe in a better position to say me. I think that's maybe been the impression all season, that perhaps it hasn't been a great side that he's playing in. But equally, I think it's fair to say he's, like you said, they're amongst some of the best ball progressors in the Scottish Premiership in terms of how he plays out of the back. That clearly, I think we've seen with Ben Gibson.
Not massive competition, granted.
No, of course, which must be added. But you can see in terms of the style of defender that you've kind of outlined there, why it would be someone that would fit into a Daniel Farke side. I mean, his height is clearly attractive as well. Whether, again, as you say, he uses that particularly well or not, it will be in the Premier League, a league that is physical, massively important. I think you can also probably, as Norwich have done this season, really get a decent balance between those two centre backs. If you're playing Grant Hanley, or as he said, if it's a free, you can negate that even further. So, look, definitely one that Norwich like. Definitely one that I think is progressing away in the background. Clearly, there's interest from elsewhere, so it's going to be interesting, I think, to see how it progresses. I think it's a bit of watch this space, this one. But yeah, I mean, he's been clear in his quotes, hasn't he? That it looks like he's pretty much said that he's going to leave Celtic this summer. So I think there's an opportunity there, a deal to be done if need be. I think it will probably come down to who comes into him, maybe, and Norwich are definitely one of the sides that like him.
So I know that some of the competition's coming from Germany and that there's keen interest in him there, as there seems to be with any player pretty much. Angus Gunn may be an exception, linked with Norwich City these days. Michael, you get any idea of a fee or even ballpark in with regards to that?
No, I think this signing will be the one Norwich spend probably their most money on. So I think whoever comes in, you're going to be looking at probably their record signing. I have a feeling. I guess it's hunch work, really. I don't know. I get because it's such an important role, isn't it? You know, it's hugely important for what Norwich do. I think I will be fascinated to know if Daniel does play three at the back this season. I know he would have wanted to 2 years ago and never really got the chance because of the resources. But by the same token, if they are only going to really recruit one centre back, I'm not sure how much that opens the door to, you know, being like, well, we're going to go into this season and play three. And also when he has played three at the back, the wider centre backs have tended to be in sort of converted fullbacks in a way. So we'll have to see. It doesn't mean yes or no, really. I'm interested, and I think there's a way that it could work better for Norwich. And I think everything's a little bit up for debate and up to be won in terms of what Norwich do next season. I think it'll be really interesting. Thank you for letting me know how to pronounce his surname, because I hadn't really spent any particular time trying to work it out. So it's Ajer. Thank you.
I've done that just based on what everyone in Scotland's saying. I've never had the chance to ask him, and I've not spoken to any of my Norwegian friends, plentiful as they are, about how exactly to say it.
It's a step ahead of where I was. I haven't really watched much of him play, to be honest. Because if I was doing that for all the names being linked, I'd be probably going mental. But I know he is one of the ones where, you know, there is a proper interest in. But it strikes me, I don't know if I feel like I feel like Norwich could pull the move off if they really wanted to. I just don't know how high up he is in the target list. I have a feeling that there are others they would want to get ahead of him. And again, maybe I'm just, you know, misjudging that. I don't know. But I think I know he was linked with Milan, wasn't he, 12 months ago, I think?
Yeah, not sure how much there was in that.
No, agreed. Newcastle sounds like that move is going to happen, whereas at a time there probably was a suggestion that it would. And it probably sounds like Celtic would want 8 to 12 million quid now as well, but you're probably closer to Celtic than I am, Stu. So if I was going to sit there writing speculation piece, that's probably what I'd put in it, and then away it would go. So we'll see.
I think it'll be a record fee. I think you're right about that. I don't think that's even going to be disputed. With a bit of reaction coming in, Liam Winnall says he's been told by a Norwegian friend to avoid him at all costs. And then 12 says, is there any chance Ajer is a central defensive midfielder, as he does on Football Manager? He's the top player on FM. Football Manager, for every Cherno Samba, there's a Javier Saviola. So it depends what category he kind of comes into. Ajer would be, I'd prefer him as a defensive mid, if I'm honest. I'm in an interesting position with this one, because even though we're looking at you guys for the expertise, this is probably a player I know a bit better than you. I'm not overly enamoured by this.
This is all worrying me, because the one thing Norwich need is a centre back who can defend. I don't want one who's, you know, well, it struggles in close, defending, but they can bring the ball out. It's great. They need to be able to defend, and then if they can bring the ball out, then great. And I know that there's a lot of, and this is just me talking now, but there's a lot of weight put on them being technically minded, and that should be a lot easier to find at the level Norwich need. But they got to have a centre back who can defend, who isn't learning the job. I always felt that was, as great as Ben Godfrey was, he was learning how to defend still, because he'd spent, only 2 seasons ago, a full season as a holding midfielder. He was still learning how to be a centre back. And I think he's only really just started doing that. And you can still see holes in his defensive abilities, even at Everton. So, Rant over.
I think, listen, I understand where you're coming from. And the thing is, I believe in the player development culture that we have at Carrow Road and at Coney. So I think there's a couple of wee changes you could make to his game that could make him a proper decent defender. He's definitely got the stature for it. But as I say, it's not his physicality that I would say are his key attributes. And the other sort of worrying thing is Brendan Rodgers is one of the best coaches going. And he did improve his game, but he improved his game in the kind of facets that you would expect and gave him the confidence to go on these runs forward. And he is a good technician, but I don't see him as... I want Norwich City to have players that will just throw their body in the line and have that proper committed Grant Hanley-esque attitude to things. But I don't think Kristoffer Ajer is that. It's a surprising one for me. And I mean, it might turn out well, but I can't say that I am doing cartwheels of excitement with regards to this signing personally. We're quite pushed for time. We want to keep these short and snappy. We've had a lot of questions come in, so I'd like to race through these. And I know you've got something else that you need to go off and do, Connor. So fire this one to you. Anything more, asks Ashley Bootle on Skipp.
Not until Tottenham work out what the hell they're doing with all their football club, really. To be honest, I'm sitting here waiting for a call from Daniel Levy offering me the job. It seems everyone else has been offered it, doesn't they? But no, I think Spurs.
I'm in London. I've had my interview, mate.
Good man. Let us know. They'll probably pull it and go for someone else in about 2 hours. But no, I think they need to decide what they're going to do, and then obviously we're going to wait on a head coach having pre-season to assess and stuff like that. So I don't think we'll learn anything new until that happens. It would probably be one, as I'm sure Michael would probably say as well, that heads towards the end of the window if it was to emerge. But certainly all the reports from the Spurs end seems to be that the remit of the new head coach, whoever they will be, in all seriousness, is to develop the academy talent that they have, and that includes Oli Skipp. So that would suggest that it's unlikely. But of course, until that new head coach gets appointed, and it's been from anyone between Antonio Conte and Erik ten Hag, then I mean, it could really be anyone. Who knows what Tottenham are looking for? So I don't think we'll really know until they've got a new man in the dugout, to be honest.
No, that's fair enough. Michael, just briefly from you, I mean, do you think how possible do you think that is?
Well, I just think they'll wait until the last moment, really, and give it every chance. I actually think they'll just plan around him not being here. And then if they can get him at the end, then great. So that's probably what I would say now. I think everyone needs to kind of box Oli Skipp for the wonderful season he had and move on. Because if you're going to be waiting and hanging around, then that's not going to do Norwich any favours next season. As much as I'd love him and have him back in a heartbeat. And I think Daniel Farke would as well.
Yeah, I think he was vital to the way that we played last season. Amy Scoons asks, Farke likes having players in for the start of pre-season. Do you see most of the signings coming in time for that first pre-season game in the 16th, or does that seem unlikely now?
It's a difficult window, isn't it? With the Euros, with COVID, with the impact of that, and the sort of, if you speak to anyone in the last month or so about the transfer window, they use the same word, which is dead. And that sums it up nicely. There's not a lot going on. I think Buendia is probably kind of a rare point in that. So things will get moving. It's a matter of when they get moving, but obviously it doesn't help with all the kind of ramifications and context around it. So I think it may be a slightly later window than Norwich City would like and would usually have. But of course, the beauty of transfer windows is that things can move very quickly. So it could all change very quickly as well. But yeah, I think they'll still be waiting maybe on 1 or 2 free pieces, maybe even as we head into pre-season, yeah.
Yeah, I've also had a question in asking if we had any news on Adam Armstrong. Or is that one sort of dead? Or is there a chance of a resurrection there?
I don't know how much you might know on this one, Connor. I mean, to me, it's sort of in the background. I don't know if there are other places that he may end up. Seems like quite a lot of money to me, but
yeah, I mean, let's be fair. I think I've seen anywhere between about 25 and 15 million sort of quoted in the window, which certainly is beyond Norwich City figures. The way I kind of see this one is, as Michael said there, in the background. If it's one that at the end of the window that there maybe hasn't been as much interest as Blackburn or as Armstrong expected, that fee drops a little bit. Maybe one of the camps begins to get itchy feet because, I don't know, Blackburn haven't got the fee that they planned for to do the business that they wanted, or Armstrong hasn't got the move he wanted. Then maybe there becomes an opportunity where everything lines up. But at this stage, I think it's probably pretty unlikely, you have to say, given everything that's kind of being quoted around the fee and clubs that are supposedly interested. But again, if something lines up and there's an opportunity to press the button, then I don't think Norwich, as we know, will hang about.
Right, we've had a few questions in about sort of Kieran Scott. I've seen a story that's gone out saying that there's been no formal approach, whether we should be worried in losing him. I think we'll maybe part that for the next round table, but I do want to know Farke's new deal. What's the status with that, guys?
Well, in truth, I don't really know. I think
there
Daniel's
was a look exchange there. That was interesting.
Was that?
I don't know. I felt there was there a look exchange between you two? It seems like there's something. Maybe is there something?
No, really not. No. I think we're going to see who's going to get lumbered with the question.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
So I think I don't envisage Daniel doing much while he's off. I have to be honest. I think he'll be properly relaxing, spending time with his family. They'll have had a conversation before Stuart Webber even spoke about it. I would be very surprised if anything really moves on from that point. I think it's already done its job, which is that people see that Daniel will be hopefully extending his stay so that he's not going to be out of contract at the end of the season, which I think is a narrative that suits Norwich when they're trying to do business in this window. That's probably where I'd see it.
Yeah. All I would add is I think we had some quotes yesterday with him in the German press, basically saying that he wants it done before the start of the Premier League season, which is everything that we heard from sort of Stuart Webber as well. So not a position that we need to worry about really. So yeah, I think no news is probably good news in this situation.
One other question that I'm going to take from one of the viewers, because I know we need to wrap up quite soon, and that's relating to outgoings. So I've had a question whether, and I'll kind of wrap these both in one, whether Todd Cantwell is going to be going anywhere, signing a new deal anytime soon. And then with regards to rumours of interest in players such as Cantwell, Max Aarons, things like that, do we know about any deals in terms of outgoings that are in progress or any further along, or even interest that's a bit more concrete than just a rumour?
Quiet, I think. I think they're conscious that someone might come in for Max, but I think they're like waiting to see if that happens, because that's obviously happened in other windows. And again, part of talking about Norwich's window being slow is equally the other clubs having a slow time of it. So wherever Max fits into that for other clubs, that's slow as well. So I think they're quite conscious of like, we're going to get a call from Max, and let's hope that's not maybe too close to having just sold Emmy. Todd's situation is an interesting one. I don't see him signing a new contract unless he's still here at the end of the window. I don't see that being something that gets addressed this window. I might be wrong. I don't know. But it strikes me as they'll sort of see how things play out. And then if that then needs to be addressed come September, then they can look at it. But I know it took him a long time to sort out his last deal. So again, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Connor knows anything further than me, but it's an intriguing one, that one, as that plays out, I think, for me.
Yeah, I'd echo it. I think it has been really quiet, particularly on Max. Like Michael said, he's been probably the one of their assets that has generated the most interest in the last two windows. With obviously the bid in January and then the whole Barcelona saga last summer. So, given that, you would probably expect something to emerge at some point. But of course, there's a lot of clubs trying to do a lot of stuff with a limited amount of money because of COVID and whatnot. So naturally, again, some of these bigger moves, and I'm talking bigger in terms of the wider scheme of the window, might move to sort of the back end of the summer, which is then going to be interesting to see if that creates almost this mad scramble, which I'd imagine it might do at the end of the window. And I would kind of reiterate what Michael said on Todd. I think it's either a situation where this summer he either goes, or then they need to look at a new contract, because you've got an asset there with essentially 1 year left and then an option. So 2 years essentially is kind of losing interest all the time with every month that passes, and that contract is still existent. So they need to come up with a solution with that. So both interesting sort of dynamics, but yeah, nothing imminent, I think, on either of those two.
Excellent. That's really good. Thanks to everyone who's brought questions in. I do really appreciate that. Just one last one from me, just to throw in. If we were to analyse which positions or areas of the team are going to be targeted, where would those be? And I'll maybe ask you first, Connor, because I know you need to shoot off.
Well, I'd probably echo the ones that have probably been out there, really. Centre-back, a couple of central midfielders, and obviously probably now a couple of wingers now. Buendia's moved on. I think they're probably the main holes. I think you almost need to see it as kind of a cycle. Norwich are beginning now to enter a new cycle of players. They had obviously the first cycle with Steepman, Hernandez, people like that. I think they're about to enter a new one as well. So they're probably, for me, the obvious gaps. But whether... Again, we spoke about opportunities, whether opportunities come up in different positions where they can do something for a really quality player that improves their starting 11. I think they will do that. I don't think they're particularly confined by these are X amount of positions that we need to strengthen. I think they're fairly open if something popped up that was of interest. But yeah, they're definitely the priorities, I would say.
That's cool. Does that sort of chime with what you're hearing, Michael?
Bang on to me. Yeah, maybe some extra fullback cover. But,
yeah,
I think that's where we are.
Excellent stuff. Well, listen, you guys, people know who you are, but we've got to go through the ritual of sort of plugging where you work and what you guys do. So, tell us a bit about where people can find your work. I'll go with you first, Connor.
Pinkin.com. I think that's probably the easiest place to find me. Everyone knows our socials and stuff by now. So yeah, Pinkin.com. Everything Norwich City is on there that you'll need. So that's really the only plug I have, to be honest.
Just put our names up.
Yeah, I put the names up at the end. I was hoping there was going to be social handles in there. You're at CJ Southwell 1902, and you're
well remembered.
Michael.
You're old, Connor.
I am. Yeah.
And you're at Michael J. Bailey, is that right?
I'm at Michael J. Bailey. Well, next Roundtable, we'll put our social handles in. There you go.
Good stuff.
And I'll get my plug in, shall I? Yeah, the Athletic.
No, on you go.
Theathletic.co.uk. And if you don't subscribe already, well, obviously you should, for all of our stuff, you can do so for £1 per month for the next 6 months during the Euros. What a sale. Go for it.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's just some of us subscribed at the wrong offer time.
Yeah. There's always an offer. There's not always an offer.
Good stuff. As for myself, thank you to everyone who's watched this. I'm really grateful for been good numbers tuning in. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, where you can see all of my Hodge on Nodge podcasts. Just hit the subscribe button, hit the wee bell, and there will be streams up. Next one will be later this week with Benjamin Bloom, where we do the 3rd episode of Behind Enemy Lines, which is a podcast for Norwich City fans and that lot from Suffolk. So very good stuff there. And of course, if you prefer consuming your podcasts in an audio format, you can find Hodge on Nodge on all your favourite podcast players. But thank you to Connor. Thank you to Michael. And thank you to you all for watching and listening on the Ball City.